Welcome to The Third Side Convo with your host, Bob Phipps. Your panelists today are Lawrence Haber, Ted Johnson, Trin Schlut, and Bill Russell. And now, your host, Bob Phipps.
Welcome, everyone, to the show, to the Third Side Convo, where today we are going to talk about the Electoral College. Now, as a fundamental component of our republic, the Electoral College reflects the founding fathers' vision of a balanced and representative government. Established in 1787, it serves as a mechanism to ensure that both populous and smaller states have a voice in electing our president, embodying the principles of federalism and indirect democracy. Now, coming on the show, y'all already know one thing, and that you know why you hold the position you hold. Now, what I'm going to ask you or task you with doing is to start to listen to the other side to begin to understand why others believe what they do. You know, putting together this show has forced me to really listen to the other side, and what I've learned is that we're not that far apart. So today we're going to delve into the complexities, controversies, and the perspectives on the Electoral College, and we're going to hear from advocates on all sides. So let's dive in and listen, and we're going to see how close we truly are to our shared goal of a fair and representative electoral process. But first, I've got a sad note. One of our longtime supporters, in fact, he was on our very first show, Steve Langle, died of a stroke this last week. And Steve was on our voting reform show that we did a few weeks ago. He was literally the very first reasonable person I found to go against Joe Boy in a test run that we did a few years ago. Steve will be missed, his wife Nancy and his boys. I just got to say it, he was just one of the biggest supporters of what we're trying to do here, and I will miss Steve greatly. So right now we're going to go on and take a break for our sponsor, and then we'll be back with opening comments.
Corona Cigar Company is your one-stop shop for all your cigar needs. Whether that's a brand new humidor, a box of those new cigars you've been waiting for, a top-of-the-line cutter or lighter, a place to enjoy the finest cigars and spirits with friends, or the only cigars grown right here in the Sunshine State, we've got you covered. Come visit one of our retail locations for the ultimate cigar experience. Visit us online at coronacigar.com.
Oak Ridge Gun Range is a family-oriented shooting range that has been in business for over 30 years. They specialize in basic firearm training and offer numerous services such as consignments, gun trades, gunsmithing, and concealed weapon classes. I even got my training for gun safety at Oak Ridge Gun Range. Great customer service, and firearm safety is what they do best. So find out more at oakridgegunrange.com.
All right, welcome back. Now for the show on the Electoral College, and I think we're going to learn a little bit. Let's go on. I'm going to go in and start out with Ted. Ted, go on and give me your opening comments. Don't have to make all the points now, but things that you want us to talk about in the show today. What's your tech?
Here's one for you. We'll start off with this. The Electoral College makes polling highly inaccurate these days. How's that? Let's start there. In 2016, Hillary's going to win by 5 points. Trump won. In 2020, excuse me, I'm sorry. In 2020, it was very close, but Assad had more of a decisive advantage. But the point is that in states like California, New York, big advantages are built up in popular vote, but they don't translate to electoral votes in the lower population, mid-country states like Wyoming, North Dakota. So I think that's
fair
what you
enough.
Consider. It doesn't make polling very accurate.
All right, Trin, what are your opening thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been working this long. You know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Well, that'll do. So, in other words, you don't have a problem with it then?
No.
Okay. Well, it certainly makes it kind of fun as we're counting up on election night as to what's happening. All right, Larry, what is you think is the argument for getting rid of the Electoral College? Is it antiquated? Why should we get rid of it?
Well, this is an easy one. It is antiquated. It was originally designed to be a compromise between very populous states and not so populous states, like comparing Virginia to Georgia, for example. The problem now is that we live in a much bigger country with media that the founding fathers could never, ever have even dreamt of. And so when you have a campaign that focuses on just a few states because of their electoral votes, you're skewing the whole system. You're skewing the whole will of the people. And it's time for it to go.
All right. Bill, you got an argument on the side of keeping the Electoral College.
Well, absolutely. It remains as relevant today as it was when the founders came up with it. It prevents states like New York and California from dominating every other state. The same argument that politicians spend too much time in a few states would be turned in the exact opposite direction if we went with popular vote. Nobody would ever leave California or New York or Illinois to campaign anywhere.
I disagree with that. Texas is the second most populous state in the country. Florida is the fourth most. So that's how they elect in electoral votes. They're highly powerful and influential, as is Pennsylvania. So I think the Electoral College now threatens the one man, one vote basis of our democracy.
Totally agree with you, Ted. Absolutely. The problem now is we are sitting in a situation where one person, one vote doesn't count. And the focus is on other areas, not the ones that we should be focused on, which is where the people are going to vote that may be undecided, for example. You're not going to get an increase in California people or people running to California when most of them are going to vote for Democrat anyway. We need to go back to just one person, one vote. And from a previous show, purple finger, vote on election day, everybody takes off, and then we have fair elections.
That issue came up a couple weeks ago. Good point.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, I agree. I would say I would agree with you if elections were honest. And then there's the issue, again, came up a couple weeks ago, the issue of some states and some cities in particular pad their votes. And they jam those boxes full of extra votes. They have a lot of people extra on the ballots, on the voting rolls. And this helps to mitigate it.
Wait,
Now,
are you saying, hey, Ted, you want the first talking point thing that and hey, Bill, what we decided to do on ones where it's going to take a little bit of proof is we're going to move that to the the comment section of the show once the show is posted, and let's post some of those things that you're talking about here, because I've got out, we kind of got sidetracked a little bit, Bill. So if we can stay on the out of the voter, I don't know what the Electoral College has to do with voter fraud is what I'm getting at.
Bob, you don't want to relitigate 2020 again, do you?
No.
Okay.
But anyway,
well, that's what he's talking about.
But anyway, it still remains whether or not we talk about 2020, that's fine. But with regard to keeping larger states with larger populations from dominating the smaller states, there's no reason why a few very large cities and a few of the very larger states should be dominating our national policy, particularly when it comes to rural issues like food and farming and those issues when those small number of farmers in the middle of the country are the ones who feed us.
Well, hey, Ted, isn't there some value in that? The fact that people have to concentrate, that they wouldn't just be. I know that's the argument you always hear, right? So what's wrong with that?
Let's look at some statistics. Okay, 3 states, South Dakota, North Dakota, and Wyoming. Total population is 1.6 million for those 3 states. They have 6 senators and they have 3 House of Representatives, 1 per state. But they have 6 senators. California has 38 million people. They have 2 senators. Now, go to the way the structure of the government is. The House of Representatives controls the purse, how money is spent, where it goes. And that's where California has a big advantage. They have 56 representatives in the House compared to 1 for Wyoming. But the Senate serves as a cooling of the rabid folk that vote every 2 years. And that's what it's served for. Again, but like Larry says, it comes down to 3 states, 5 states that have to be swung a certain way to give us a decisive edge in the overall count in the Electoral College.
Okay. Hey, Trin, obviously,
Yes,
the
sir.
Electoral College and the concept of us being a republic are very much related because they were, formed at the same time as our republic. What did you read or what did you see about the need to possibly keep the Electoral College the way it is?
Well, like I said, I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I think it's kind of been working for such a long time. I mean, obviously, there's been a couple of snafus here and there, and quite a few of the previous elections, but it's been set up to do what it does and help kind of protect those states that need it. And yeah, I mean, I don't see a problem with it.
So you're saying that the protection of the smaller states, that is it from the standpoint of that no one would campaign there? Is that what the issue is?
I mean, I wouldn't say it's that no one would campaign there, but that probably is the root of the matter. Everyone would focus on the big states, but I wouldn't say that's the main reason of it. Just more protecting their vote and their say in the overall decision.
Why would anybody spend money on the Democratic side in New York City to get a vote when we already know what the outcome is, or in San Francisco or in most of the West Coast? So in effect, you're still back to the same place you were before. The money and the politics are going to go where the votes are. And in my case, Ted, I'm going to disagree with you on just this one thing. Senate is another story completely, nothing to do with the Electoral College.
All right.
I just want to take that out of where I'm going with this. But quite frankly, we need to make sure that people have the right to vote and have it heard, and that should apply across the United States.
All right, well, perfect. That'll end the first session. We're going to take a break from our sponsors, and we'll be right back.
Aw, Dad, my computer's slow again and I can't play my games.
Call Your Computer Solutions today, and we will scan for viruses and clean that computer up remotely and make it fast again. Our phone number is 407-826-0810.
Thanks, Dad. My computer's fast again. Now I can do my homework. Thanks for calling Your Computer Solutions at 407-826-0810. The Tibia Show would like to thank Boggy Creek Airboat Adventures for being one of our sponsors. I got to go on an airboat and saw a real gator. I even got to go to the gem mine and mine for some gems. We ate a steak dinner at the restaurant and even got some gator bites. If you want to have a blast with the entire family, I suggest you go to www.bcairboats.com right now. Get your tickets today. The website again is bcairboats.com.
All right, I'd like to go just a little bit more, and let's look at the right a little bit. Let's see if y'all can pull up your argument a little bit on why are there people in this country would be overlooked if we went to, I guess what they're talking about doing is just going to a popular vote, right? Is that what the left is wanting? Ted, is that it? You're just wanting to let's go to a popular vote?
Well, my issue would be, I want to ask Bill, what's wrong with having a one-man, one-vote system? So, yes, there's a big advantage in certain states over other states, but why can't the parties put the resources where the votes are? I mean, there's plenty in parts of Central California. It's very, very conservative, very much anti-liberal California. Right. Those votes are there. In fact, they lost 5 representative seats. That's one reason why the House flipped 2 years ago. So
Ted, are you saying that because of the way we're doing it now, the Republican votes in California are pretty much wasted anyway?
That's right. I think if there was one man, one vote, more people wanted to participate in the system, have a say, because they know it's going to be 60-40, but if it's going to be 55-45, maybe that'll help overall the presidential.
Okay. All right,
count.
Bill and Trent, any arguments on that side of people being overlooked?
Well, again, if we could have a thoroughly honest one-man, one-vote system, that might have merit. But as long as we have these long-term mail-in ballots, the way, again, I know you don't want to litigate 2020, but that's a prime example of why we need to keep the Electoral College, because while it's not perfect, it does help to mitigate where cheating occurs. And whether you're talking about the 1960 election in Chicago, swayed to Kennedy by a few votes, that system, while it does not always succeed, it does help to mitigate the packing of votes in the big cities where you have these machines that do that.
Bill, I'll totally disagree with that. Let me give you an example of that. Let's say we go back to Chicago. The fact that Chicago may be in play means that 1,000 or 5,000 or 10,000 votes could make a difference in just one precinct in the entire presidential election. And we've already seen that in the last few elections, particularly the one with Al Gore, when he lost at the last minute, and there's still all sorts of, yeah. So back to Chicago, if you know that you need every vote in the country, you're not going to spend your time in just one area. You're going to spend your time in all the places in the country that are important to you. And that's what should happen for each candidate when we have a presidential election.
And that's true. I think you'll see the presidential candidates focus on 6 states: Minnesota, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Virginia, North Carolina,
but
Arizona.
Not Florida, Ted. Since we started this, we are very different than where you were.
But what is the population and what is the demographic breakup of Orange County where you guys are in Orlando?
Oh, Orange County is still Democrat, definitely. That's yes. The last Democrat bastion anywhere except South.
Well, what about Miami?
Yeah.
Same with Miami.
Yeah.
Same with Miami.
The Northwest. I know it's redder than blood. I know that.
Right.
Redneck
it's kind of interesting, though, because I know, Trent, you were saying that, why don't we keep it the way it is? And I think on a lot of things that makes sense, but I swear the more people talk about this, I'm sitting here going, this thing was created, 200 years plus, 250 years ago.
Yep.
I don't know how much it does. I don't know. Does it make sense? I mean, what are your further thoughts? I know you're kind of getting ganged up on, Trent. You and Bill are trying to.
No, it's okay. I mean, it just seems like I, trust the system. I mean, yeah, like let's give the vote to everybody. And with like you said, with all the media influence these days, it could just be a complete shit show and just get one wave and everyone go in that direction. I think this kind of creates some sort of a checks and balances.
Right.
Yeah, it is a bummer if you're a Republican and you live in California. But again, as my background, I haven't really lived too much in the United States. I've just, been born and raised here. I haven't voted much, so don't. It's not a huge top of mind thing to me. Just because as a young kid, I was planning on living outside the country. Now here I am, married and living and working a full-time job here. It's a little bit different. You start thinking differently. But
that's where you went wrong, sir. Not the kid. The first thing you said.
Well, again, I just kind of I feel deep down if it was down to just one vote, it would be a shit show, and this just kind of keeps a little bit of a checks and balances. Yeah, it is a little bit lopsided on certain examples. However, it
Yeah, I guess the concept of whether South Dakota, Wyoming, and North Dakota have too much power for the amount of their population, I guess that's for another show. But, when you think about it, the Electoral College, what is interesting is, like the Chicago that y'all mentioned, that Chicago turned all their electoral votes on a very small number of votes, didn't it? It's almost like what you're worried about is almost more likely to happen because of the Electoral College.
Exactly. Thank you.
Well, I would disagree with that, but because what it does is it does provide a level of mitigation because and there are ways in which it's played, and Lawrence's point was very well taken as to that, but it provides some mitigation from that, and we've seen it time and time again, and it is but it provides, once again, it just prevents the smaller states from being overwhelmed, both policy-wise at the national level, from the larger, more populous states.
Well, there you go.
I was about senators, but it doesn't do that in the Electoral College.
What's that, Ted?
We have to separate the two issues.
Okay.
I think it comes down to one man, one vote. Comes down to the political parties getting organized and know how to stir up votes in the areas where they don't normally get votes, and that's what it's been happening in the past. Certain people shifted votes in the last election that didn't vote that way in 2016. Right. It's all because of political pressure or political influence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The more I hear about this, the more I, look at both sides and see we got more valid points. It seems like to me on the left, but I know I'm not supposed to ever state an opinion here, right? But
Can I state the other side for a second, Bob?
Yeah, go on and do it. Yeah, tell us
Please,
what
Larry,
the other side,
please.
why they're doing it, Larry, since you're sitting on this side, but you know the other one.
Here's the biggest problem if you get rid of the Electoral College. You will not have the ability to have people vote for where they live and how that is important to what that state or that location is. The Electoral College is designed to give electors the ability pursuant to population. And so if you're in Wyoming, no, you're not going to go up against California. But if you're solid red, then drop it off. It's going to be Republican. It lets the country focus on where the issues are. And that's exactly what's happening right now. The other thing I have a problem with, Bob, is that if we get rid of the Electoral College, I think that brings us closer to whatever civil war everybody keeps talking about. Besides the quote unquote verdict today, getting rid of the Electoral College gives voice, as both Trin and Bill have said. And if that is gone, then there's no voice whatsoever. Nobody would bother going to Wyoming.
Gotcha.
Well said.
It's not true. Yellowstone's there. You go for Yellowstone.
Yeah, but you don't vote there unless you're a resident of Yellowstone.
And this goes to another issue that's slightly different, Larry. But your point is well taken. But I think that's not. I said the first thing I said was polling is inaccurate because many people now, especially the younger generation, they're connected through their cell phones. Well, how many people have cell phones with area codes they don't live in? And so therefore, you don't get an accurate polling on some of this stuff. And again, that's what the Electoral College has shown is that they're not getting the numbers as close as they think they should.
I don't know. Does anybody ever answer the phone? I'd love to be polled, but we've got to take our last break, and then we'll be back with final thoughts. We'll be right back.
Corona Cigar Company is your one-stop shop for all your cigar needs. Whether that's a brand new humidor, a box of those new cigars you've been waiting for, a top-of-the-line cutter or lighter, a place to enjoy the finest cigars and spirits with friends, or the only cigars grown right here in the Sunshine State, we've got you covered. Come visit one of our retail locations for the ultimate cigar experience. Visit us online at coronacigar.com.
Oak Ridge Gun Range is a family-oriented shooting range that has been in business for over 30 years. They specialize in basic firearm training and offer numerous services such as consignments, gun trades, gunsmithing, and concealed weapon classes. I even got my training for gun safety at Oak Ridge Gun Range. Great customer service, and firearm safety is what they do best. So find out more at oakridgegunrange.com.
All right, here we go. We're gonna try to do some final ground. We're gonna try to do some shorter thoughts, and we'll try to let everybody be in a couple of times. Joe Boy, we're gonna put them on the clock, and I guess what I'd like to find is, from all your reading of this, what did you find on the other side that did make sense? Ted, I know like you said, you're agreeing a little bit with the other side here, but Ted, where do the other people have a point in this whole?
Well, there is a true. I mean, the point is, Larry's a very good point, and I know it's Bill speaks to it, is the fact that the electors go to Washington to represent what their voters believe, and there's very good points for that. Very good points.
All right, perfect. Okay, Bill.
Well, the thing I got to concede on is that the idea of one man, one vote, or one person, one vote, if we could keep that honest and, whether with a purple finger or whatnot, those are all great points. And that's ultimately what we want to achieve. And that's a very, very good point made by the other side tonight. Gotcha.
So you agree Ted's purple middle finger actually was a good thing. Got it. All right. Larry, what about you? You sit on both sides sometimes being an attorney, but what's the other side got thoughts on that are good, that make sense?
Well, it makes sense to keep an electoral college that keeps the country dispersed in terms of power and who does what. The more you concentrate in the big cities, the more we lose America. So overall, I've got a big problem with getting rid of the electoral college.
Okay. Well, Trin, you've got more support than we thought. Let's keep it at the same.
Sorry, Ted, got to do that.
But Trin, what you've got to do is say, where did the left actually make their points? Where did the people on the other side actually have a valid point?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I agree. It's obvious. It makes polling a little bit inaccurate. But however, like we just discussed, it's kind of like a checks and balances to help kind of keep everything in line and in place.
Yeah, but sometimes it's funny when the polling doesn't work. That makes for an interesting election night, doesn't it? Bill, where did Ted and Larry have their best points?
Well, I really thought their best points, again, were on the issue of one person, one vote, trying to ensure that and have everybody's voice heard. And that was, I believe, their strongest argument.
Well, and after doing 2 shows on voting reform, boy, everybody does agree that if we could get this down to one person, one vote, everybody agreed on that. There is nobody that wanted, I guess unless you're going to win the thing. I see it, though, as related to the whole concept of a republic. Ted, should that be a show we do sometimes? Because you were referring to the power that these states have. Do we need to revisit that, or do we? Yeah.
I think one thing you should think about from a little different angle is that one person, one vote would have a bigger impact on social issues, such as, does a woman have the right to choose? Okay. Marriage issues, gender issues, those all become much more general and individualized as opposed to block by block state laws.
Got it.
That makes sense. I think that's the impact I would see the biggest.
Larry, any issues with that? What issues do you have with that?
Well, I still have the same problem. The Electoral College was designed to disperse, okay? And dispersion is not a bad thing right now. Dispersing, whether it's power, anything, voting. The more we spend time focusing on other parts of the country, the better off we are. The more we concentrate, I fear, is going to lead to problems down the road.
Okay. Trin, do you see that we need to have further discussion about that, about just the whole way that our government is set up, or is the republic? You're obviously, let's keep the republic, right?
Yeah, I think it's working pretty darn good there, Bob.
Trent,
well, you're definitely winning the award for the briefest person tonight. You have been studying well, and it's wonderful. Bill, what do you think? Is this something that we ought to go a little further, deeper into the whole concept of how our country's set up?
Yeah, well, I think Benjamin Franklin summed it up best when he said that a democracy is 2 wolves and a sheep deciding what to have for lunch. Right. And a republic is a well-armed sheep and 2 wolves deciding what to have for lunch. So our republic, our representative republic needs to remain strong, and the Electoral College is a part of that.
Yeah, well, that's what I heard the other day where, let's see, what was it? Democrats want to spend more and raise taxes, and Republicans want to spend lower taxes and spend more. They both spend more. It's ridiculous. All right.
True.
So
no argument
I guess
on that point.
What's that?
No argument on that point.
Yeah, they both spend it.
Bill, one of those wolves now is, he's worried about his gender, and he might be vegan. So I don't know if the same, simile applies. So there you go.
I'm still in favor of deunionizing California, and then all will be well. So
you can start spending $5 for a head of lettuce.
Could be.
It has gotten insane, hasn't it? It has absolutely gotten insane. One thing they forget about, this is kind of a side subject, since I have my own CPA firm, they raise the level of raised to $20 or more, but they forget about the people that are already making $20. They've got to go to $25, and those that are making $25 have to go to $30.
No, that hasn't happened. That hasn't happened.
But it is going to happen.
That's
the
because
prices,
it's a slow motion
some people
crash.
think the price is going to hurt some local owners. The franchisees, I don't think. By the way, I don't know if you checked Happy Meal lately. I mean, they're probably 40% more than they were 4 years ago. So, I mean, you can make that argument. You can make that argument, but I think it's more to the pandemic.
What are you collecting with the Happy Meals? I didn't know that there was something you were collecting.
I'm just saying, the Big Mac, the fries, and the medium Coke is $9. It used to be $7.78. That's all I'm saying.
Unbelievable.
I'm glad you know it so well, Ted. Stay healthy, man.
I don't eat fast food. No, I live with a vegan daughter. I'm eating vegetables. What do I know?
Well, that would explain why you're always so cranky. Sorry.
Yeah. Well,
All right, guys.
Bob's Cigars are meant to cancel that out, and I haven't seen anything yet.
All right, guys. We're going to be finishing our show, and we will talk to you next week on the Third Side Convo.